We're live. We're live. Good morning. Good morning. All right. Hey, good morning. How rent-own deals work. So what I was doing there for a second was trying to get my iPad to go onto the screen for you guys, but having trouble doing that. So what I'm going to do today is I'm just going to briefly explain how you do rent-own deals and what they are. So you got to envision with me some of this stuff in your head because I can't draw it on the screen. So imagine that you've got a house and you want to do a rent to own on it. How do you do a rent to own on it? Okay. So basically, what a rent to own deal is it is where you've got a property and you eventually want to sell it, but you want to make some money in the meantime. So you find a rent to own client or a tenant buyer to participate in this with you. So you've got the house and you do an open house, you put an ad up, you show it to a bunch of tenant buyers and you tell them that you're going to do a rent own. You advertise this as a rent to own deal, basically where families and individuals can rent your property for a period of time, let's say 3 years, and then after that they can qualify for a mortgage and own that same property. So what's great about it for them is that they can't get a mortgage anyways, otherwise they wouldn't be using your services. And they're in a property that one day they will own. So that means they don't have to move again, and they'll take care of the property like it's their own. And they can do improvements to the property, which is a huge bonus, right? So people who are sick and tired of renting, this is a great option for them. People who cannot qualify for a mortgage at this time, this is an amazing opportunity for them. So we put out a sign, we advertise this property, we share the benefits of the property, all the good things about it. And then, we get people who are interested. So we meet with these people and, they fill out a questionnaire for us. We've got some questions for them. Kind of the key questions are, and I don't ask these right off the top, but, what is your gross annual income, household income, right? Not what ends up in your bank account every day, but what's your gross income? Okay. Good. Now we know that. What's your credit score like? Have you talked to a bank? Do you know about your credit score? Okay, tell me about that. How much debt do you have? What's your debt load? What's your debt servicing? How much credit card debt, automobile debt, student loan debt, all that sort of stuff. And then how much money do you have for a down payment towards your new home? So those are the four key things that we need to know. Now, there's a bunch of other stuff, but for today's purposes, that's what we need to know because A, we want to make sure that they can afford it, right? And B, we want to make sure that not only can they afford it, but do they have money to own a house in terms of a down payment and some extra payments each month and stuff like that. So we go through that process. We evaluate if they're even going to be pre-approved with us to do a rent own. Because ultimately, what I'm doing, is I'm getting them ready to be pre-approved with the bank. Right? I know the criteria the bank's looking for, and we're getting our tenants ready for that criteria. So let's just say that they've got a high enough income, for debt servicing on the house. Their credit score is maybe it's really good, but they've got very little money to put down, or they've got uh, poor credit, meaning under 600 beacon score, and they do have some money to put down, but the bank's not qualifying them on the 600. And also, we need to know what their debt servicing is so that we can properly adjust and know how long they're going to need in this program and what those debts are for. So we pre-approve the tenant buyer, and I would say that not like most people don't get qualified, meaning that we'll get lots of people who inquire and maybe they're on government assistance, which the banks will qualify them for a mortgage, so we can't help them, or they don't have enough of a down payment, and any number of factors. Maybe they've just gone through bankruptcy, so we won't go down that road because there's a lot of detail with that one. But oftentimes, people with consumer proposals or bankruptcy are a good future candidate for rent to own. I would say a majority of the people that I work with who use our services to do a rent to own home, um, a good percentage of them are newer to Canada, and so they're establishing their credit score. Other people are, people who've gone through, significant change in their life, perhaps a divorce or health issues, and it kind of tanked their credit score, and they need help getting back on their feet to qualify for a mortgage. Also, people that I've worked with are newer business owners. They don't have enough history on their company to satisfy the banks. Typically, the banks want to see a minimum of 2 years of growing history with their company. So these are the people that I generally work with, and that what you can generally work with in terms of doing a rent to own. Okay, so I've qualified the tenant buyer, meaning that they've got enough income, they've got a down payment, they can afford the monthly payments, and we know how long they need to repair or rebuild their credit. So, as a general numbers, these are just kind of average numbers that I see. And that is, a tenant buyer will come in with a $10,000 deposit. And then from there, they will pay $1,500 of rent, $1,500 in rent for the property, to lease it. And then they'll also pay another $300 a month for their option. So there's two option credits here. One is the upfront 10,000, and then the other is the monthly $300 that adds up, and each month the 300 gets added on to the $10,000. So after 3 years, they've got approximately $18,000 built up with us for a down payment. So great. They're making their monthly payments, they're looking after the property. So the way that I set these up for my tenant buyers, for my rent own clients, is that I make them responsible for repairs up to, let's say, $1,000 per instance, right? So if the toilet gets plugged, that's their responsibility. If the furnace fan goes, and let's say it's a $700 bill, they would pay for that. And so that's very different from just a straight buy, rent, and hold rental property where you, the landlord, are responsible for all these minor repairs. So I'm teaching my tenant buyer how to think like a homeowner. So, for example, be more careful that the kids don't throw toys in the toilet, because that's going to cost you $300 to get a plumber out and fix. Change your furnace filter regularly. Make sure your eaves trough and downspouts are flowing water away from the house, and it's not dumping into the foundation wall and then down, then into your basement. These are all minor things up front. Often will take you 5, 10, 15 minutes to work on or fix or maintain. But if you don't do these things, they can cost you thousands, if not tens of thousands of dollars of damage on your rental property, right? So if you're a landlord and you don't like, having to do all these little things for your property, maybe you can afford to hire a property management company to do so. Great. But if you don't, or don't want to do that, these are things that you have to do to maintain the property. When my tenant buyers come in, they get a homeowner's manual that we walk through how to care for these items. And then we'll do, what I call triannual visits, where I come out to the property, or someone on my team will come out to the property and check up on the property and make sure that these things are taken care of. And if they notice anything else going on with the property, and see if the tenant buyer needs help with anything or questions. And so that's the process of the rent to own process, right? So $10K up front, $300 a month on top of the rent. So now you're paying rent every month, plus you're getting the $300 each month. Time passes, 3 years comes up. You are now helping them, qualify for the mortgage. And from the outset, uh, you will have laid out a basic plan for what they need to do with their credit score. Building credit is not that difficult. It's pretty simple, but it's the discipline of not buying a big screen TV and putting on your credit card, and letting it sit there and you pay it off over 5 years, or it's using your credit card monthly but paying it off monthly. So gasoline, groceries, if you've got cash for that new TV, buy it on your credit card, pay it off within 30 days, so that you use your revolving cycles of your credit. That's where you're going to build your credit score. And so that's simple, but the discipline of not buying everything on your credit card when you don't have the cash for it, right? I know it sounds very simple, and it is simple, but the discipline of staying on top of that. Excuse me. So with the tenant buyers, 3 years have gone by. They've built up. They've repaired their credit score. Now it's time for them to go to the mortgage, or go to a mortgage broker or a bank and get qualified for a mortgage. So I will talk with my tenant buyers and I'll say, do you have a good relationship with your bank now as it is? And if they do, I say, okay, great, start with them. If not, I've got a couple different mortgage brokers that are great that I've used that can help you get your mortgage. So they go and they get their mortgage, and sometimes they need a little bit more time, but ideally it's like, if we can wrap this up in the 3-year period, that's awesome. They qualify for the mortgage. Now you sell directly to your tenant buyer, and they've already given you their down payment. They give you $10,000 up front. They give you $300 a month over 36 months. So you receive their down payment. Now, you don't write a check back to them for that. You credit them on paper on the sale agreement, the purchase and sale agreement, the offer to purchase, whatever you want to call it. And now you sell it to them, and they own the property. So you don't own the property anymore. That is basically how a rent-to-own deal works. Now, why would you want to do a rent-to-own over just a buy, rent, and hold? Okay, so there's a couple of reasons. A buy, rent, and hold is great for long-term equity building, but can cost you more on a monthly basis. Whereas a rent-to-own is a shorter term, but you get higher than normal cash flow, as well as your expenses are less. So you've got 3 years of mortgage paydown on a rent-to-own. You've got virtually zero maintenance costs because the tenant's responsible for maintenance up to $1,000 per instance. They give you the down payment up front and monthly. Let's see here. What else is there? You've got no realtor fees because you're selling directly to them. And there was a fifth one, but it's escaping my mind. But those are great reasons to do rent-to-own. So what I've found with rent-to-own and lease option deals, for me, that they are higher than normal cash flow than a buy, rent, and hold. And we're not going to get into this today, but you can structure them as no money down deals. So that changes the whole parameter, because you might be watching this and go, I don't have a property. Okay, that's fine. We can teach you how to get a property with, $100. You don't have to come up with a big deposit. So that's some of the reasons why you'd want to do a rent to own. Another one is that you want to eventually exit out of a property. So you don't want to keep it anymore, or you want to phase it out because you're getting out of this area of the city, or you're getting out of real estate investing, or any number of reasons. So that is how a rent-to-own deal works. And rent-to-own is basically a lease option, and lease option is basically a rent-to-own. So I hope that makes sense. If you've got any questions or comments, just put them in the field there. And yeah, I will answer them. So thanks for jumping on. Have an awesome day.